Hello, Americans. This is Paul Harvey. Stand by for news.
How many of you remember the late Paul Harvey? He was a radio announcer, and he had his Paul Harvey news and comment on the radio, morning time, noon, and noontime on Saturdays. And he'd have the rest of the story segments. And now you know the rest of the story. Paul Harvey, news and comment. A lot of us grew up listening to him. I grew up listening to him. My father used to listen to him, and so I'd always hear it on the radio. And he had that radio, he talked on the radio from 1951 to 2008. And then he ended up dying in 2009. He had a lot of good commentary. And there was one that stands out. It was called "If I Were the Devil, A Warning to America." And I printed out the transcript of it. And he had other great commentary. There's one called "Freedom to Chains." That's a good one to listen to. I'll put it in the description if you care to listen to it. And they're very prophetic. And it's amazing that what he talked about so many years ago is now what we have going on today. So I'm going to play for you "If I Were the Devil, A Warning to America" from Paul Harvey. Listen to what he has to say here.
If I were the devil, if I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. Thee. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of a serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, "Do as you please." To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And the old I would teach to pray after me, "Our Father, which art in Washington." And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies and vice versa. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And with promises of higher ratings, I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flames. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography. Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. And in his own churches, I would substitute psychology for religion and deify science. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd make the symbol of Easter an egg and the symbol of Christmas a bottle. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who wanted until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. And what'll you bet? I couldn't get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. And thus I could undress you in public, and I could lure you into bed with diseases for which there is no cure. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing.
Paul Harvey. Good day.
Did you hear that? I hope you were able to hear what he said. Do you know when he wrote that and broadcast that? 1965. 1965. If I were the devil, a warning to America. And can we say everything that he said is happening right now? Every bit of it. How did he see that? He was quite prophetic in that. I mean, just amazing. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors on how to make lurid literature exciting. Remember that book, 50 Shades of Grey? I'd threaten TV with dirtier movies. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd sell alcohol to ladies and gentlemen of distinction. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. And how many people are on some type of prescription medication? If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves. Boy, do we have that now. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects. What's going on now in our schools now? But neglect to discipline emotions. Just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. And then with school shootings, I don't think Paul Harvey could have foresaw that one. Within a decade, I'll have prisons overflowing. Boy, if that's not what's going on now in the United States. Holy cow. And what do you bet? I could get whole states to promote gambling as the way to get rich. Powerball, Mega Millions, state lotteries, which is basically a tax on the poor. I would caution against extremes in hard work, in patriotism, in moral conduct. I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned. Aren't we seeing it? And I said it in a previous video where some are even saying that marriage is an outdated technology. And on that he said in 1965. Feel free to listen to it again. You can look it up on YouTube. And you see it, the way holidays are, the commercialism, when he said that they would substitute the symbols of Easter and egg. You know, what has that got to do with anything? An Easter egg or Cadbury cream eggs and jelly beans. That's where we are. And then what's the next holiday that so many people get so excited over, to where I've even heard people say, Jim, Halloween is my favorite holiday. Halloween. And I used to have a neighbor, she lived down the road from me. When I was a kid, she would say Halloween was the devil's holiday. So here we are. You know, I just wanted to share that. I know some of you all grew up like I did, listening to Paul Harvey, hearing that man's voice and his commentary and how he would present the news and advertise different things. And then just the rest of the story commentaries he gave, that you would learn something about somebody or something you just didn't know. And very interesting. And we won't have Paul Harveys like that much anymore. And people like that, I think, are greatly missed. And so, anyway, that was all. I just wanted to share that. And maybe some of you never heard it. And it's quite prophetic. That'll make you think. And then he's got, like I said, he's got many great videos or commentary. And the Freedom to Chains, I'll put that one in the description. That'll open your eyes too and say, how in the world did he foretell or foresee these things happening? And we're seeing it here in America today. So thanks for watching. Until the next one.
Well, now you know the rest of the story.